I wanted to provide you guys with some quick yet very important updates regarding Kilmar Abrego Garcia. If you guys recall, he was the Maryland father who the White House wrongly deported to the notorious El Salvadorian prison CECOT all the way back in March. And they even admitted themselves, meaning the White House, that it was indeed what they called administrative error in sending Abrego Garcia over to El Salvador. Now, Kristi Noem, if you guys also recall, who is the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, now kind of has a little bit of egg on her face because in the moment that they did send Abrego Garcia to CECOT, she then came out and said there'd be no scenario where he was returned. Obviously, he ended up being returned, but I want you guys to think about that moment. The Trump administration and Kristi Noem is saying, despite us making a mistake in sending someone to this prison, and we're going to talk a little bit in a second about what Abrego Garcia alleged happened at this prison, they were just going to keep him there, right? There was no scenario where he would be returned despite the mistake. And also, guys, despite a judge's ruling to facilitate his return. Now, you could argue they ended up doing it eventually, but to say they were dragging their feet is, to say the least, would be the kindest way of saying it. Now, guys, currently, as of the last time I researched this at the time of recording here, he was brought back to face trial in Tennessee. So they kind of used that cudgel there to bring him back to the U.S. and charge him with human smuggling. We will see how this plays out actually in court amongst a jury of his peers. Once again, this is a great example, guys, of why we need due process, right? You actually go to the court first, figure out whether someone broke the law, and then you make the ruling. You don't randomly pick people and trust the federal government to send them God knows where, and we're going to talk a little bit about what this prison, some of the stuff that was happening here. But guys, this is such a clear example of why due process is necessary for all. And what they're currently also doing is there is a judge who is hearing arguments about whether Abrego Garcia should actually be transferred back to his home state of Maryland from Tennessee. Now, I want to get into the more important information here, guys, because this should be a story nonstop all over every news network, but I am not seeing it covered as frequently as it needs to because there is so much going on at all times, but I think this story is really shocking. So, in a letter that Abrego Garcia filed Wednesday, alongside his lawyer in the federal district courts of Maryland, Abrego Garcia claimed that he was subjected to psychological, torture and severe mistreatment. Some of this included severe beatings, sleep deprivation, inadequate nutrition. He was forced to kneel for 9-hour increments to avoid beatings. He also stated that some people would fall out from exhaustion during those times. He even soiled himself due to bathroom breaks being denied. And even at his arrival to CECOT immediately, he was kicked in the legs with boots and struck on his head and arms to make him change at a quicker pace, which he said led to bruises and lumps all over his body. And then in general, the living conditions, he mentioned that there were metal bunks everywhere and overcrowded cells. Another component of this letter, and this was kind of reported at the time, but Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland actually scheduled a visit to El Salvador and CECOT to visit Abrego Garcia. And you guys can see the image kind of that meeting now. And a big part that came out of that meeting is the propagandizing of, putting the drinks in front of them, making it seems like he's kind of at a tropical getaway, being photographed with better food, beverages, and mattresses. So it seems like, according to Abrego Garcia and what most of us assumed, that was a photo op, that was propaganda, and it did not truly show the terrible conditions that Abrego Garcia and others like him are experiencing in CECOT. Now, it's also kind of counterintuitive for them to stage this and make it seem not so bad when on the flip side, you have Kristi Noem doing photo ops in front of, a bunch of inmates, kind of cracking down and saying how tough it is and kind of perpetuating that. So on one hand, you're trying to show, oh, it's not that bad. And then on the other hand, at the same time, you're trying to instill fear with some of your photo op tactics. So guys, that is the latest updates. But what is really kind of adding on to this, guys, because they didn't go through due process, because they are not sharing with clarity who they're detaining, if they have a criminal record. Guys, remember, only 8% of people that ICE have detained have violent criminal records. And it's about 50%, maybe even more, don't have any criminal record at all. And those numbers are rising. And what I mean by that is they're detaining less and less people with criminal records, and they're detaining more and more people who just don't have documentation. So they haven't done anything wrong other than not having documentation done correctly. And they are being exposed to being detained by ICE because of that. So guys, to kind of build on this, to go even further, they're assuming this is true and what Abrego Garcia is reporting is true, and we don't really have any reason to believe otherwise as of reporting. But there are still individuals in there that should not be there, who are wrongly sent due to tattoos, mistaken identities, things like that, because they're not being transparent about who they're taking and because they're not engaging in any due process. They're just picking out people, rounding people up, sending them God knows wherever. But guys, I want to go even further than this. I don't hear this talked about enough, even for people who are criminals. Are we at the stage in the United States where, let's say, Abrego Garcia was this hardened criminal that the Trump administration kind of talked about on the campaign trails, those people they were trying to target. Now, there's no proof of that, right? But let me say he is. Do we want, as the United States, to say, all right, we are going to send you to this international torture prison and let you suffer there and just kind of throw away the keys? That is the part to me that leaves me speechless. I don't care if someone has committed a crime or not. The answer in a civilized society is not torture. It is not making someone sit on their knees until they soil themselves because they commit a crime, or in this case, because they didn't, right? They were administrative errorly. I don't know if that's a word, but you guys get what I'm saying. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. But assuming he should have been, torture is the answer, guys? Is that where we're at in 2025? Not due process, not going to the courts, not then serving your jail time, just international prisons, torture, we're good. That is the part that I think we're losing so many Americans, and I don't know how to get the heart of people back if we're just okay with a torture prison as means of treating criminals, or in this case, non-criminals, just immigrants who have been wrongly sent to these to this prison here. Now, I want to finish with this, guys. If these allegations are true, Kilmar Abrego Garcia should get every single dime if he's suing for money. There should be significant ramifications. But sadly, do I think this is going to rise to the level and get the coverage it should? Probably not. It will probably be brushed under the radar after, another, what is it called? Another story hits the headline, something dramatic happens. But I want you guys to keep your eye on this, because once again, if this can happen to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, if you can detain people without due process and send them anywhere, it can happen to any of us. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.